live again with another TROM-Cast. This time we are going to discuss about education, but before we begin, I want to introduce to you Sebastian. Sebastian he helped TROM for like the past few years. He makes the audio voice for our TROM site trailer and our video books, and help with proofreading. So he also has his own project, understandingmore.com. You can check his videos. He makes a series of short videos. So it's great that you join us, Sebastian.
Okay. For sure. Happy to be here, and definitely want to as well speak a bit about it, and want to get back on track helping out TROM and making more videos and documentaries that can help educate people a bit about the trade-free world and the potential for our species to work together and so on.
Perfect. So we are going to discuss about education today, and Dima, if you want to take it from here and talk a little bit about what we are going to discuss, because you come up with these topics.
Yeah, somebody have to come up with some topics. Well, just general discussion about our education system and education itself and the way of learning. So the way our schools today are formed, it's not actually for the people to become smarter, and they're actually never been that way. It's more about obedience and to accepting the way our things are right now, to accept the government or the rulers who are at this moment. So because the first schools, they were organized by the churches, and other various religions for people to learn the Bible and to be kind of literal enough to accept the ideas which are promoted in Bible. And from then further it goes, they'll also start to justify, let's say, monarchy, that there are kings, and we're just regular people. We have to be obedient. We are slaves, and that's the way the life is. And you are forced more to memorize and rather than think. That's the way. That's the main problem. Very funny how the same system it came to our times. When today it's completely unnecessary to remember some information because we have it. In internet. If you want to have some data or some specific numbers, you can just go online and find it. So today it's more important to get the right way of thinking. How you can came up with solution and with ideas to develop more creative thinking rather than memorizing information. And it's funny to see how even today in our modern age we still got this old school system.
And let's play the devil's advocate here. Like, what if people say, well, school is necessary? Like, my parents will say, like, no, school is very necessary because you have to learn how to read, how to write, you have to like develop friendships. What do you guys think? How do you reply to such things? Like, is it necessary in the current form?
Of course it's necessary to read and to communicate with people. Is just the way it's the way all the system is situated. So in a school today, it's not about so you send kids to school. It's not about them to actually learn something. It's more about to approve that they kind of take the values which are proposed by the system. It's more about to get grades than to get knowledges. It's more about passing exams than to actually learn some creative thinking or some inventions. Nobody asks you. You just have to. Nobody asks your way of thinking or try to develop you as a person. It's more like a cliche, like a standard, so that you can fit more in society. Actually, they teach you how to be valuable in society, how to earn money. And but on basis of that, of course, there are some unnecessary things like reading and writing and communications and some math and everything. Of course, just what like the whole education system goes way beyond that.
Sebastian, you didn't finish school a long time ago, so how? What
Yeah.
can you say about this? How much did you remember from school? How much did it help you?
Barely. I mean, it's such a huge system, and so many people all around the world are so deeply trapped in school and universities constantly, and some people never even get out. I know it with myself, after school going into university, and then some people get their bachelor and then their masters and then their PhD and then become professors and then end up working in schools and teaching in schools and so on. And it just becomes this cyclical, never ending process where you just remain within this educational system where you're submitting to the established system that is not really going anywhere. It's just about you being yeah, submitting to the trade system where you're going to end up either working for somebody and all the elements that come with it. But yeah, you don't really learn much about how to relate to people, about how environment shapes behavior, about how to really solve problems or anything that is really that relevant to human life. And it's so narrow, it is so regimented that it's just about making you able to submit to the ruling elite in a way, or to wanting to have a job and to make you obedient to say yes sir, I'll do that, or I'll become this or that, rather than actually wanting to do something interesting in life, or try to question the established system. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You're in school not to ask question or to put something in perspective. It's more about obedience.
Yeah.
And I think to me that
And accepting the things. Yeah.
Like school I think wants to emphasize on 3 points from my perspective. Is the social one, the relationships, the educational one, the knowledge, and the system. Some people have this argument like school either teaches you knowledge about the world, it teaches you relationship with other people, or it teaches you how this world works and it prepares you for having a job and so forth. And from my perspective, it fails at all of them, because knowledge, if you force kids to learn something, doesn't matter what is to be learned, it's impossible to make them retain information and use it, even use it later on, because where do you use biology or chemistry if you are forced to have a job? Another aspect, the social aspect, when they put grades on you, on people, on what they do, on kids, it becomes a competitive environment. So it's kind of hard to create strong relationships there and strong social bonds, or learn something socially valid or socially sane, I would say, from that. So because in school I learned how to cheat, I learned how to compare with other people. We did all kinds of crazy things. I don't remember to ever have learned anything that is social and it's relevant for my life. And the third point, the one that prepares you for this world, this trade-based society, to trade your stuff, your skills, I think it fails at that as well. Maybe college is focusing on that in a way, but even that I think is lagging behind. So I don't see any of those points like...
Yeah. I think that pretty much sums it up, actually, those 3 points that you just said there. I mean, if it doesn't prepare you for any of that, then it's completely worthless. Yeah, and most people seem to realize that as well, or I mean, some people do. And people are spending insane amounts of money to go to college and putting themselves in debt just to get the approval of their parents potentially, and of society to operate in a system that doesn't really function. Yeah.
I think that...
Yeah, and that's...
Sure.
There's the thing about competition, right? Why we should have marks, why, like, we're so get used to this idea of marks in school, you've got like you get valued, validated by some marks, and so it seems normal to us, but actually it's not. It's exactly what's creates. It's create a competition, like competitive environment, and then your judge scale. Okay, this guy is smart, this guy is dumb, and it's also create this connection between persons, because the way I remember school, it was like that. The guys who have like bad marks, they hang out separately. The guys who have good marks separately, you know. And instead of cooperation, the school system basically prepares you for the competition world, which actually works well in our environment, because when you finish the school, you know, you see the same everywhere. You have to compete for everything, you know, to get a job, you know, to get I know, better education, earn more money, and so on. So that's, in this way, it correlates with the values of our society.
And I think what we should not forget is that the school system is not like a 5-year school system. It's 12 years plus, plus college. So it's the entire life of a child, basically. It goes there like maybe sometimes more than the parents go to work. And another, I think, important aspect of this is to realize that it's so embedded into our trade system, because parents go to work, kids go to school. Imagine if kids would not have to go to school, you know, where would they go? Because their parents have to work, have to trade their skills for whatever you want to go to take in return. So it's so embedded that it's almost impossible to change it. Because if you remove that, if you don't force people to go to school, then you have to also touch the work aspect of our society. So that's very important.
Yeah.
So it's, everything is interconnected, you know, in a way. So for such society, school system works, actually, you know. They learn, you know, to be obedient again this world, you know, to follow the rules, you know, not to act too much, not to think too much, just, you know, to be normal, to get job. If you follow the order, you will get job. Your life will be more or less, you know, static. You will be more or less safe. So in a way, maybe it's work. It's just the way we look at the world. And if you look, you know, further, and when your values are different, then you start to see a lot of problems. But not only in education. I mean, it's everywhere. Like, my biggest concern about education was that you actually there not to become smarter, and that's, for me, is like the main point of all of this thinking.
Yeah, for sure. And to touch back, like that's the most important mentality to have, which they don't teach you in school, is to always want to become smarter and to keep growing and learning and so on. But they have labels like, oh, he's smart, or she's dumb, or this and that, and a very competitive, fixed mindset where they're just not able to grow, and they just look at each other in a kind of hateful way, rather than knowing that we are all changing beings that are capable of doing anything. Anyone is really capable of doing anything intellectually or whatever. Just need to expose them to the right information and put them in the right environment to be able to bring that about.
And to think that, you know, you create a school system where you have sports, then mathematics, sports 1 hour, then 1 hour mathematics, 1 hour biology, 1 hour. This is completely crazy. Even if you do that as a volunteer thing online, to focus 1 hour on biology, then jump on English, then jump on sport, they will be completely crazy. So I have no idea how they came up with such a system, but in my view, it just was that system, and they just perpetuate it. That's all they do. They don't think.
Yeah. I think today it's even too long for 1 hour. It should be shrinking to like 10 minutes of each subject. Because the way, you know, we get used to the internet life and switching subjects.
Did you guys learn well in school? Were you a good student? And
no? I was really bad. Like, my last few years when I started to do music, I was skipping school like 50% of the time. I really was rarely in school in the last like grades. Yeah.
I was like, in the beginning, I never really did much, and I was also skipping and not really paying much attention. But then later on, I got a bit more into it. But then once I found out about, you know, how things function in the world and about the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement and trauma, then shifted completely again.
Because I was like, I learned so well in school for the past like 8 years. I was one of the best students in school. I was very like the model kid. Like, my parents were very proud of me. And then I saw the corruption and the shittiness that happens. And then I said 1 year, I said, fuck it, I'm not going to learn anything. So I stopped learning. For the high school year, I learned absolutely nothing. And I just finished in a like without the problem, you know. So it was like, fuck, you know, because I realized that it's just, they put some grades on you, but even those grades can be bought. You know, people were paying money to teachers to get greater grades and stuff like that. So what's the point? What's the point for me to struggle? So yeah, I gave up.
Yeah.
I haven't even paid, you know, like for in the 12th grade, I was skipping math. Somehow like mathematics it's not my thing. And just, yeah, I almost never was there in 12th grade. And there was this final exam and I couldn't, of course, pass it. So they just, you know, wrote a mark 4 for me, you know, on this governmental official exam. So just, I could pass and they don't have, you know, bad statistics. So I didn't care. It was good for me. So.
Yeah, for sure.
But then, let's say if we go to higher education, my story was then after the school, like, yeah, my parents insist, you know, you have to go to higher education, blah, blah, blah. So I decided to go to something related to music. So the only college I found was like back in Latvia, and they've had course art management of the art, or something like that. They've got like music studio there and stuff. So I went there, enrolled there, went there to study. But after 2 weeks, I think 2 or 2.5 weeks I spent there, I just took my documents and, you know, just quit. Because I realized the thing, the whole course was based around you selling the art, not for you to become, you know, more an artist or to learn to value the art or how to, you know, to maybe promote or make people more value the art or the music. You know, there was like different forms of art. It was purely only about selling. How can you make money out of the art? And I was so disgusted about this idea, and I said, no, I'm not gonna do this. Yeah,
because that's what it is, to learn how to sell better, to sell yourself better.
So what knowledges I will gain there, you know, just how to sell stuff. So what? I mean, it's just only earning the money. It doesn't make you a smarter person, doesn't make you more educated or more, you know, curious about the world, or it doesn't answer any of your questions you might have, or it doesn't make you any better. And you spend there like 4 or 5 years to get this degree, you know.
But we don't need you to be smart, Dima. We need you to be a consumer. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is not even a conspiracy. This is not a conspiracy or anything. But you have more value if you are a consumer in today's world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very bad. That's why I gave up in the second year of college. I went to a web design university. That was like the most like maybe modern, maybe high-tech in the country, and they still like, they taught me absolutely nothing. It was completely waste of time. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know, and I just gave up. I said I will work on TROM back then, and even this thing, I think they are very outdated. Even if they want to prepare you for a job to sell yourself, even this is very outdated for them. Because for me, no one taught me how to make websites. Even when I went to the university for making websites, for like web design and informatics, I knew that because I learned. You know, so when my parents say to me, when I have sometimes in the past I had these debates with them, like, oh, you have to go to school because you have to learn how to read and how to write, and then I say, okay, say more. Okay, read, write, and what? Because those things you can even learn, you know, through your family or through like a few years course. You don't need 12 years of school to pump your heads with all of those stuff. And
for sure.
Yeah, and besides, let's see what you think about this. Besides, like not learning much, I think it makes kids uncurious and makes them hate chemistry, hate science, hate mathematics because of the way that it is presented and spoon-fed to them, basically. So I think it destroys that.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity.
Completely. I think it completely kills curiosity and makes people hate subjects that they could actually love, or it's also life is then categorized into subjects and not into like interesting projects and stuff like that. And I also remember like always thinking how like a 1-year course at university or even like 12 years of studying whatever could be summarized within like a good hour-long documentary, or even comprised even more into like a 5-minute video, and then you didn't have to waste all your time, doing something that's just so ridiculous. And yeah, and so many subjects are just about really subjectively interpreting whatever, and a lot of it is just pure bullshit as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and today you can learn so many things online, you know, just on your own. You can buy courses or find a lot of them free, you know, available from other people, and that's, you know, that's incredible. We've got so much information.
And this idea that education is from here to here, that's a completely
Oh yeah.
weird idea. Like, why? Why should it stop like after you are 18 or 22? Education is
Exactly.
it should be like it's a lifelong process.
Right. Yeah.
It's and even like I was telling to my parents, like, how did you learn how to use a computer? I'm sure not in school, because there were no computers back then, probably. How did you learn? Even they are here in Spain and they speak Spanish now. They learn zero Spanish in school, but they learned French and they don't know French at all. So come on, it's ridiculous when people claim that school is going to teach you something. Really, it's just a way to like basically keep you there. Just keep you there and just...
Yeah.
Completely. It doesn't teach you anything about how to cook your own food, or how to, live and travel, or understand the world around you, or relate to people, or have fun, or it doesn't teach you any of that. Just teach you to sit down in a class in such a dysfunctional way as well. We're all since for 12 years you're putting kids into a classroom where you just tell them to sit down and shut up and just look into a whiteboard, and most of them just want to move and explore the world and so on, and they have a lot of questions, but you just tell them to shut up. Is crazy, and it's so violent actually, in the long run.
Yeah, just take a kid from today's educational system and ask this kid, now he's older, like he's 20, 30, how is this our society works? How just give me the basic, because I never learned about any of this. I have no idea what money is, what documents I need, what is my place in this society. So not even this thing, how to play this game. No one teaches you. You have to learn this.
But then imagine if the school today would learn, would teach us the things which are, important for us, like like Sebastian mentioned, travel, how to communicate with people, or how to cook, and how to be normal human being, how to actually to be able to learn yourself, without any guidance and so on. So imagine if they would teach all that to us, and we finish the school, would we be able to survive in this system, which is totally opposite. So where everything, corrupt, you have to fight for your way, you have to compete, you have to treat people badly, not because it's your intention, because, the way business is, when you're buying something, for cheap, it's usually made by some almost, slave force, for people in third world countries, working their ass, for coins, really for nothing, for you to have it. So in the same way, how if the school would be like the way we want it, we still wouldn't be able to use this. As we're going out of the school, we have to be, like you, Theo, like to say, charlatans. Yeah. So,
that's exactly the point that I wanted to make. Exactly that. Even if we invent the perfect, in our view, school system, you cannot detach it from this society, because you have to do something in this society. You can teach me how to be good and how to be, lots of knowledge from atoms to quasars to whatever, but if you throw me into the game where I have to survive, I have to trade my skills and my stuff, it will make me a charlatan. It will make me like a merchant, a seller, something like that. So that's very important.
But then, what do you guys think about alternative schools? There are quite a lot of very different schools. They use like many approaches, and how to work in group, how to not separate kids by the age, but by their interests, and to have shorter, longer subjects, and to go out with them. And there's like many of different varieties. What are your thoughts on such approach?
I think like I was talking to Yoav, and he's from a school that is like democratic school. I even saw a documentary that he gave me about his school, and yeah, it's an interesting kind of concept where kids go there and teachers just wait for the kids, and kids come with questions for the teachers, and it's this dynamic without grades, probably without, so it's more like in the right way. But then I asked him like, so what do you think is the impact that the people that you see, the kids that you see around you, are they different? And he said that it's not really different, because they pretty much they watch the same shit on YouTube, they watch the same stuff on TV or whatever, they read the same stuff, so that's why you cannot separate.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. You cannot separate the educational system from the overall social context, and you can never do that. And the schools vary as well so much depending on where you go. As well, I mean, some places in Africa or so on, you might have school systems that where the kid doesn't necessarily go for too long because the parents want them to become a fisherman or become something else in the local community. So it just doesn't work that way. And in other places on this planet, the parents then push them to become all the way up to PhD and professors or whatever. So you can't take it without the social context. And the trade world we live in, because that's what it's all based on, ultimately.
Yeah, you cannot change the education unless you also try to change something in the system.
Exactly.
So you think that's the reason why our school system haven't changed for more than 100 years now? Like it was like our modern educational system was invented in like 850 or so, when this industrial revolution began, and people have to to learn how to operate machinery, read manuals, and this, when the bell rings, that's when you have to stop work and start work.
Like Pavlov.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Pavlov. Yeah. So, but that's still today. So you think the reason is because it really kind of correlates with our system?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it goes well because most people think that the world is becoming more and more competitive, and there's a higher scarcity maybe for jobs and so on. So they have to like get better and have higher levels of degrees. So everyone needs to have a bachelor, otherwise you can't have a job or something. Everyone needs a master's. So everyone's like trying to kill each other and outdo each other, and that's why maybe their only way of reasoning is to stay within the established institution, which is education. Or the schooling system and universities and so on. So I think a lot of it has just to do with as well the fact that society has become a bit more cold and competitive because of many different factors, the trade world expanding and so on globally.
To me, school is like a slow-moving monster, but it's not changing much. The universities might change some stuff. They add stuff because it's more directly related to jobs, like they will make courses, like short courses, some universities, but the school itself, I think it's pretty much the same school that my parents went to. From my perspective, it's kind of the same thing. They move very slow.
My parents got, I think some of my parents, they also got beat up, or not beat up, but like physically punished. So I think like maybe there have been a couple, maybe it's become a bit less violent in some places, but actually it's the same type of violence, just translated emotionally rather than physically.
Exactly. You don't have to slap a kid, but put him 12 years into like a bench there in the school. Stay there.
That's gonna hurt as well. That's gonna hurt.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
In the long run.
And if we think about higher education, it's purely business. It's purely business model of getting more students, to getting excessive fees, for the studying, especially in US. That's like incredible what amount of money you have to put on to get your higher education. But also in other countries, it's relatively very expensive. And being there, like I also enrolled then later in life in other institution, but I also quit it like less than a year. realize that all they want to do is just to have more students to get more money. That's it. They don't care about you being better, being smarter, develop you as an, like for me, okay, it was more as an artist, let's say, but no, it's just purely business.
It's almost like those private prisons, it only matters how many inmates you have in. So you're valued by the numbers. Like,
it's like this picture when there is a slave and he's got this metal brackets, and he painted in gold. So the same, like, yeah, I've got like Oxford education, and I mean not all education bad. I mean, we've got amazing scientists and amazingly smart people overall, in overall. But just the way the whole system is based, it's like you see 12 years to become perfect consumerist, and then you also pay a lot of money for the institution, and then you have to be stressed out and go to find work because you need to pay loans for many people, which they spend for their higher education. So they are trapped in the system. That's like perfect trap for most of your life.
Yeah, US has the perfect system for college.
US, it's like wow, yeah.
Prison, basically, because you start with a huge amount of debt.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. You start your, let's say, adult life. Yeah, when you finish this university, you have debts to pay, and then
Imagine.
There are differences. Like, for example, here where I am right now, I'm in Denmark right now, and here people get paid to go to university. So it's like kind of the opposite. But it's still based on a similar system. Like people go to certain universities because it's more prestigious to then get a higher paying job, and their corporation sponsoring the universities. So it's all kind of the same deal, just maybe a little bit less in terms of debt and getting into it that hardcore. But it's again the trade world that takes over.
Yeah, because we talk about the same school system, and I'm from Romania. You are from Denmark, right? You went to school to Denmark?
No, I just went to university here for the past 2-3 years or so.
And where did you go to school?
Different places around the world because of my parents and shit like that.
It's even more relevant because you got to experience, So
exactly.
It's not like we talk about the Spanish school system or the US school system.
Yeah.
I think it's similar.
It's all over the place. I went to school in international schools, and international baccalaureate it's called. It's this international system that there are international schools all over the world, in all continents, in Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, America, stuff like that. And there's the system they developed, which is goes from primary all the way up to secondary and so on. And they have like specific things that you need to do and complete and so on. Very regimented and very similar as well to, I would say, German or Romanian schooling systems.
Mm-hmm.
Same subject, same system, more or less.
If you imagine like 12 years, I was always like imagining this, 12 years to teach a kid not this bullshit that they teach in school, but to teach him or her relevant information. Imagine 12 years, it's a long time. It's a long time. I'm curious, what kind of minds could you create if you were to teach them like how to solve problems, stuff like that. I'm curious.
Yeah, most of the people don't remember almost anything from the school as soon as they finish it,
Yeah.
That just tells a lot. And as you mentioned, 12 years, wow, incredible. Like now I'm thinking, okay, if I would, like the next 12 years, I would, invest in something. Like after 12 years, I would be like
an
expert,
Exactly.
But then I finished school and I don't.
Sure.
I can speak, I can read, I can do some basic math, and I can, speak a little.
So instead of being an expert on one field, you are a mediocre in 12 subjects or something like that.
Even
lower, yeah.
You're just good enough to go to work McDonald's and stuff.
Yeah, they still teach you like calculus, like 2 + 3, 45 times something. Like why do you need that kind of completely irrelevant stuff right now to become like a what? Should I become a calculator or something? It's absolutely crazy.
They want you to suffer, and it's like you said before, like what would the kids be doing during the time they're going to school if the parents are at work, you know? And most of the parents, they also want their kids to suffer like they do at work. So they kind of like that their kids are also coming home complaining and say, do your homework, because I had to do my like 12 hours at work, which I hated. And they just, because then everyone is in this like depression mode together, and they're punishing their kids by like, you know,
That's
punishing
the
themselves. It's really ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a nice way interesting way to put it. Yeah, yeah. I think is that I've seen this happen.
Yeah, no, I feel that. That's how it is. Yeah.
Don't relax. You know, you finish your school to leave and walk after.
Yeah, because they have this mentality that you have to work hard in order to get something. Which is completely bullshit, because even they are like, come on, do you really like work hard and get the same rewards that like the measure of the reward is compared to how much work you put into that, or what? Shut up. Most rich people probably did nothing to become rich.
Completely.
I mean, the poorest should be the richest, those who work like slaves.
Exactly.
So it's even a waste for kids. Like I was thinking, like if you had a dog, I put it in a book. If you had a dog, if you buy a puppy, but you only have to see this puppy for like 2-3 hours a day, and you have to give this puppy for a training camp every day. Like you don't even feel like it's your dog, you know, it's your dog friend or something. It would be like it's someone else's dog. So what about kids? You as a parent, you only spend like 2 years or so, or the first few years, and then you give this kid earlier and earlier. I've seen today, like even when they're 4 years old, they put them in some like pre-kindergarten stuff.
And then you also might think the way kids are separated, or let's say forcibly are how to say it correctly, which are forcibly like put into classes with some certain people, you know, and you may study with those people 12 years, and they have to become, you know, your friends or the guys you hang out with, but it's not necessarily the guys who are, you know, share your interests. Like for me, there was almost nobody in my class, and it was about like 30 people or so, which share the interests with me, but I have to adapt to them, you know. I have to be in this society, like which was enforced onto me, you know. Okay, that's the people that's going to be your friends, you have to, you know, now live with them. And and I think, and I see a lot of persons, they don't have friends, so it's put like a pressure for you, you know. You kind of forced to hang out with people who you don't really like and don't really enjoy, and because you don't have like similar interests, you know.
And for me, it was actually the other way around, because it was like my good friends were in the same class, and then they divided us because of grades, and I was learning very well in school, and I ended up with kids that I had nothing in common with them, and everything, like I lost all of my friends in that 1 year because of this completely. Like I remember this. It's so crazy to do this.
Yeah, and I think for Sebastian, it's even more radical. If you change the schools, you just get your friends, you know, then you just move to another place.
All my life has been like that. Yeah, exactly, and completely. But then they have a system in place, so they keep the same schooling structure. So you lose your friends, but like you fit right in, you'll be accepted to the next school, and so on. Even if you're like you know, not living in one place, or your parents keep traveling and so on. It's really crazy, and it's very, very strict, and you have to wear uniform in some places as well. Yeah. So they make you all look the same. I had to wear a uniform most of my life going to school, and you can't wear it in a certain way. You cannot roll up your sleeves. You know, you roll up your sleeves, then you're like a little bit like you know, revolting against the teacher, and then you have to stay after school because you put up your sleeves and you didn't say yes ma'am, you didn't say ma'am, you have to go afterwards to the detention. It's like a prison type environment in many places, and that's how it was for a lot of my childhood, and it's very traumatic for some people, and it already brings you into like a very competitive place, and it shows you the world, you know,
I, I,
out
I,
there is tough. Yeah.
I think it is violent, but we don't
Yeah.
see it because we are used to
Yeah.
the system. Because
Yeah.
I've experienced the
Yeah.
same kind of stuff. Like, don't wear a
Yeah.
hat. And if you
Yeah.
wear that, it's like a say this, say that. Don't
Yeah.
move. This is
Yeah.
crazy. On one
Completely.
side, this society seems to be like, oh, we care about kids. You know, kids are like the future of humanity,
Yeah.
and they fuck kids off with,
Yeah.
with this school system. Like, do you care or you do not care? And it's another interesting thing. Like, you see, kids are defined up until the age of 18, and they're like, oh, let's sometimes give kids like monthly payments. Some say in some countries, or let's give them some benefits. And then you are 18 and fuck off. You know, you
Completely.
just fuck off. You know, you're not a kid anymore somehow. You don't need help.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
that's why they teach you. So after 12 years, you know, grown up enough, you know, to take care of yourself.
It's so ridiculous, you know. All my life in school, I was told by teachers, I was prepared for university. That was like the entire schooling system prepared me for university. And then I got to university, and I actually just completed like my bachelor last year by barely doing anything. It was way easier in this university that I went to here than it was like in fifth grade in school, because I didn't have to show up. I could do everything online, and it was like super easy and stuff like that. And it was just ridiculous in a way. And I was like, so this is what university is here, and we're barely even like learning anything, and you don't even have to go or show up or anything. So, and there are of course many different types of universities out there, but it's such a flawed system where they prepare you for something that you're never going to even do, and you end up forgetting half of it anyway. That's completely irrelevant to you.
That's exactly my story also. I remember like in the school, last like 3 years of the school, that was only preparation for your exam and, you know, to get to be enrolled in university. And when I enrolled in the university, it was like level was so easy. So I just decided, oh no, I just cannot waste money on this bullshit, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I
Completely.
quit because it was not
Yeah.
reasonable, because I was
That's
paying for my, you know,
Yeah,
education. Like I
that's
took a loan and stuff. So
okay. Yeah, that's good. You quit. I would have quit 100% if the university was paying me to
Yeah,
study
yeah.
there. So that's the only reason why I was going. That's the only reason why I enrolled, because there was an opportunity in a way. But otherwise, I would never even like consider going there for free, because it's pure brain damage. It's just being there and sitting with those people and the professors talking as if they think they know what they're talking about. You know, it's just so ridiculous.
Even they are bored, the teachers, because you have to do the
Yeah.
same fucking thing every day, every fucking day. I think my biggest nightmare is to wake up tomorrow and be like in the 5th grade and start all over. I would be like, jeez.
That's a long way to go.
Jeez. I would be like, nah. I don't think I could stay in that classroom. I barely finished school because of this. I couldn't handle it. If they do, even for our school was maybe a bit primitive than other schools, because everything was on a blackboard pretty much, and only some classes like chemistry, they would bring you into like very old lab. But it's like doing sports on a blackboard, you know. If you at least do them in proper, like, show me chemistry physically. I mean, don't teach me that something that's completely detached from reality. And I think that had a big impact on me, because at one point I was thinking like, what is this point of this mathematics? All of those letters and numbers, I mean, they don't relate with anything in the real life for me. They are very important if you apply them for like astronomy or whatever. But for you, the kid who just wants to get a job, because that's what parents always told me, and I've heard all of the parents saying that, hey, you need to get a good job, you know, you need to be a doctor. What do you want to be when you grow up? All of the time they were asking, like, I was like, I want to be alive. That's it. I mean, I don't want to be anything, basically. It influences you.
Yeah, they're just brainwashing you, trying to tell you, okay, you can either be an engineer, a doctor, or a businessman, or something along those lines. And like you said, the schools, they take your curiosity away, and by just making everything so theoretical and so detached from nature. And the key thing should be to like stimulate kids and make them like awe of the world and be like, wow, the world is so beautiful actually, and it's so crazy, and there's so many different things to do, and show them some chemical reaction, and then they will, with that curiosity and drive, they will figure it out, and they will do their research and actually understand and learn what's happening.
Yeah, make kids say that, hey, let's build a robot, and you will learn programming, you will learn physics, you learn, give them a problem to solve. Say,
completely,
this is what I will do. I will take some fossils, and I will say, look, was a huge dinosaur. Let's discover how it died, how old it is, and you do chemistry, you do biology, you do evolution, you do all of that. But for that, you need resources, you need people. I don't think you can, even for teachers, to pay teachers to be enthusiastic about their job. They have to do it for pleasure, because even for them it's like a burden. It's like I have to go to work. I have those fucking kids, and they are annoying to me today. But I have to go because I have to trade.
Exactly. Yeah, you're completely right. If you have to do it for enjoyment because you're passionate about it, and not because of trade, because then it will become corrupt and it will be like a hassle and a drag, and then there's no point doing it in the first place.
But teachers are the same, victims.
Exactly.
Of the same system.
Yeah,
exactly.
completely.
And I don't know how in other countries, but in most countries in Eastern Europe, they're very low paid. It's like ridiculously low.
Yeah, for sure. And I know many of my friends who as well never got out of the educational system. They got then their bachelor degree, and then they became teachers immediately. So they just went through it, and now they are like schooling the next generation to go through it, to then go through it, and the cycle will never end. And it's just like, what the hell is happening? And there's so many meaningless jobs all over the planet. No one's doing shit, and these teachers are doing nothing. And then they're like, we need more teachers, the government or whatever is saying. And it's like, for what? To brainwash more kids, to then create more jobs that are completely useless and so on, and then for it to just continue and continue.
Yeah, it's exactly. Crazy. You put everything right. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, they try to solve in the same way this school problem. They either put rules and they say, okay, maybe classes should be like 55 minutes long and not 1 hour, shitty things like that. Or we need more teachers, or we need to build more schools. They never look at the problem. Like in my school, they started to put like big walls and then guards, and then so that kids will not flee the school, will not leave the school. Yeah. But it never worked. Like, but don't you ask yourself, like, why are kids fleeing the school? Why kids want to go home? Just because they say, they are all like lazy fucks and we have to put them in school. It's this mentality of primitive mentality. They don't look at the environment as an influencer or creator of the behavior. They think,
but then if they would look, at the environment and why kids are bored, and they realize, okay, we have to change, the whole education system, make it more interactive, and more approachable to person, more interesting and engaging. They couldn't do it because outer world is different. So while we were talking, I just realized it's just not possible, because the school system we have today it perfectly fits into our society. That's it. That's why it stays for so long, for 100 years.
Yes, but
for sure.
It's not gonna change because the world doesn't really changing. Our values not changing.
Yeah, and maybe an interesting point to make, I completely agree, is that like which schooling system prepares people the best for this world, kind of. And there are many alternative schooling systems, and it may be that sometimes if you send your kid to an alternative schooling system that does things a little more openly, and the classes are less regimented, or there's homeschooling and the people are working more together and it's more project based and so on, then they are like given to this world after they're 18, and suddenly the parents are like, you're on your own, and the kid can't necessarily deal with the competitive and predatory environment. So in some cases it might like backslash if the kid is like maybe too protected and so on, or it could as well go the other way. It could as well be beneficial, but it's just so difficult to predict, because if you don't think of the big picture and be like, okay, what world are we actually living in? And it's tricky.
But then the question, what we can do, is it possible to change anything?
We can talk about this, and
we can talk for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
But it's such a huge task that I don't think but you have to understand that this is not an old system, so it's quite a new system, the schooling system. And imagine in the next 500 years, say, I don't think we can keep on doing the same shit, even in this trade-based society, because it kind of doesn't work. I know, for example, more and more people who finish school and they start to realize that, you know, fuck that university, I'm going to do some freelancer job, and I'm going to other countries and I'm going to earn a lot more money like this. So I think there are lots of social pressures that are going to change. I'm not sure. I don't think they're going to change in the right direction, but I think stuff will change, because this is, what can we do? I have no idea what can we do. So
yeah. I think so many people are. Go ahead. Sorry. You know.
No, yeah, continue.
No, just I think everyone is malleable, and everyone like has a plastic brain that can be shifted. Like people can change when they're 30, 40, 50, 60. I've seen people change like a lot from 50 to 60. But yeah, just through entertaining content, and then by trying to create a lot of different variety of media, you can really shift people's attitudes. And yeah, and kids, of course, are also really great in terms of being able to, they're not as corrupted yet by the system as older people. So if you can get to kids as well, it's essential, because then you can develop mindsets that are as well hungry to want to change things, and so on.
Dima, you want to play the pessimist here? Because I feel like
yeah, I've got a few points. So
okay.
yeah, yeah, like you said, Sebastian. Yeah, after 12 years of schooling, after your brain completely brainwashed, you can go back to online internet and look for a lot of sources and educate yourself, and that's the cool thing. And yeah, the same like Theo mentioned before, like in our society today, the education ends with your, like, when you finish the school or finish university, and that's it. People think, okay, I'm educated, and they're stop like learning. So, but the learning actually, it's ongoing process. Enjoying to read and to explore new stuff like every day. So, but other point Theo mentioned, yeah, that's probably the schooling system is not so old, like not old enough, although it's quite old, because it started like about like 500-600 years ago, because about the first church, schools were belonging to church. And as you said, we probably need more time for it to change. But I want to mention like religion, which have with us for 1,000 years, and even today it's still growing. Every religion except the Buddhism are growing in numbers, and that's really hard to realize for us today, like living in Western countries where everything is so modernized and so highly technological, that with every day more and more people go into the religion.
But I think that even religion, we put a word on it, like religion, and another word, Christianity, but I don't think it's the same. Today, Christians are not the same that they were 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago, same as Muslims.
Yeah.
So
of course, they're not the same. I'm not sure about Muslims, okay, because they're quite strong in their belief. Yeah, for Christians, for sure, but it doesn't, cancel their belief in, God and some, God is being there and everything is run by God.
But my point was that social pressures even will change even such things. Like even Muslims are going to accept, like in the airport, their airport security, because they need airplanes, they will accept to take off whatever they have on their faces, on their heads. They will accept more and more things because they need a car. Maybe they said like women should not be able to drive, but now they say maybe we should allow them. So I think there are so many forces that even like the strongest beliefs are going to be challenged. I'm not saying again that it's in a good way, but I'm saying that there are lots of pressures, even for the school system. You say it's invented like many years ago. I agree, but I don't think it was the same. Many things are changing. I'm not sure in what direction, but I don't think it's the positive kind of direction.
Yeah, of course, everything is changing by some bits, but the core values are stay the same. You know, like how long we have this trade thing or money thing for 1,000 years. You know, and yeah, it's probably better. I mean, now is probably the best time to live than was ever before. You know, for the people taking into account everything. Like when a few hundred years ago, 99% of population were poor. So, but the core values are stay the same.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the contrast between the information abundance on the internet and like very old values still persisting today. My family lives in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai, so that's in the Middle Eastern part of the world. And I actually finished my last year of school in Dubai, and that is of course a Muslim country. And I lived in Qatar in Doha, which is also a Muslim country, city in Qatar for 3 years before that. And you see women who are wearing a dishdash, who are completely covered, and then their eyes are like still are revealed. And then they have this electronic screen in front of them where they have like all the world's information in their hands. And then they're browsing and surfing and learning about all kind of different things, but they still have these old values and like family pressuring them and trying to push them into a certain type of education and mindset. But of course, this device that they're holding can also maybe keep them narrow-minded and keep them within their own little frame. But it could also open one or two other doors that may not have been possible before. And it's really just going to be interesting to see. But I have as well seen a lot of big changes happen in my short life. But I mean, changes are happening everywhere so rapidly, and the internet, no one could have predicted this shit like 20 years ago. So it's just becoming wilder and wilder in a way.
This internet thing is such a double-edged sword, because a few years ago I was a bit more optimistic about it, but now, I'm still am, but I see that everyone wants to trade online, so Facebook is going to feed all the Muslim content to that woman, and they are
Exactly.
like, they are predatory, so charlatans. They have become like everything is personalized to you, whatever sells. So it's such a, I think it's such an amazing tool. On the other hand, it's like you have to compete with more and more people. It's even kids. You may think that, okay, kids are not touched that much about this culture, but when you see that parents give them like an iPad or something and they watch the shittiest things for hours and hours, and yeah, it's I'm starting to become like Dima a little bit. Like no, I understand perfectly that this is let's be realistic, of course.
For sure.
I just do a lot of research recently for the book, and I research a lot of different topics, and I'm surprised by everything. Like we live in such bubbles, like let's say here, three of us, and everyone we share like common interests, and we see a lot of things happening, changes, like new technologies coming, like 3D printing, automation, and self-driving cars, and everything becomes better and more available. There's a new thing on Linux, now we can do this stuff for free and so on. And it seems like so overwhelming, the world is really changing. But when you actually start to dig and look at the global data, because I think we live, or in enclosed system called Earth, and we have to research and look, at the whole perspective, like what's happening globally. You really become pessimistic, because everything which seems for you becoming better, actually it's like so tiny percentage, of some things that changed. And usually like the same religion, like the same, drugs, and army wars, like cigarettes, whatever you put their education, everything is going worse and worse than ever before. So by living in such bubble, let's say, I will give like example of veganism. I've been vegan for 10 years now, and going back like in 10 years, I see how everything is developed now. It seems like today, like wow, every second is vegan because so many, you know, like magazines and festivals and restaurants and everything, people talking about it on mass media channels. And when you look at the stats, there's like 75 million worldwide. It's like less than 1%, you know. So you know, who are real vegans, who really choose, you know, because there's like many vegetarians, you know, let's say in India, but they're vegetarians because they're poor. As soon as they've got money, they, you know, they're gonna eat meat. So it's not their, you know, belief. It's just example. And as far as I research everything, you know, all things which matter to me, and I see some changes and improvements. Yes, there are, but on a global scale, it's so unnoticeable, you know. So
For
that's
sure,
why I
for sure,
become
and
really optimistic.
for sure, and I hold that same pessimism in terms of like individuals changing to some extent. Uh, but uh, but I was listening to as well one I think the previous chat where you were talking on human behavior a little bit about this. But if there's structural shifts that happen within society, you can change like a lot of people, because if they react to the environment differently, you can restructure people by restructuring the environment completely. And just by living in a city like Dubai, which is insane. It's just like there's so much disgusting stuff happening there, but there's so much like technological advancement happening there, and there's so many things that can really shift quickly globally, and so many different things that can happen where people who ticked one way will be shifted completely differently just by shifting the environment. Um, but of course, there are many things to it, and you can also change the environment digitally nowadays with so many different things. So it's really difficult to say how things are going to go, but you just got to take it day by day, I guess.
Yeah, how can you know? Because
Yeah.
when we talk about such things, it's a huge, broad kind of topics, like what changes society. You know, we've talked about such things before, and I don't think we can put a finger on much stuff because it's so complex. I have no idea. I know that what I've seen from what I realized is that technology, infrastructure, and dictators are kind of the ones who push big changes very fast. I'm not sure if should like go on the dictator part or like that route, but technology, for example, may force the society. I mean, it will force the society to change. They will, and like I explained the other podcasts, I fear not that something is going to change the society, because it will. I fear what solutions are going to be adopted, because technology will push to have less and less jobs, but in this world they will invent more and more shitty jobs as a solution. So I think there are forces, clear forces. Even with self-driving vehicles, you will see a lot of progress in the next few years, but they will come up with, like we talked, like you have to watch advertising to maybe ride the car, you have to shit it out, stuff like that.
No, maybe, you know, the car will be self-driving, but there will be like a steward, the guy who will be working inside this car, selling tickets or something.
Welcome, ma'am.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's completely ridiculous, like you said, you know, and yeah, they will maintain the system, and this system we can already shift things completely in a different direction. But so many people work meaningless jobs within the entertainment industry, and you know, so many people are football players, and just like within one industry of like sports, let's just take that, there are thousands of people doing meaningless stuff, just distracting other people to be able to
Actually,
they're just forced.
I have a book that Dima wrote that is all about such things.
Yeah, I did. I read it. It was excellent. Yeah.
No, we have another one that it's about entertainment.
Okay.
So it's about
So
it's about lots of.
It's about such topics. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but I think let's like focus a bit on the subject, and let's say that okay, we don't know how it is going to change, but how do you imagine a relevant kind of education, like in the future, in a saner future? How could kids?
Yeah, I also wanted to propose to speak more about that. So the way I see, we maybe have to engage more curiosity in kids. That's one thing. Another thing, to give them tools on how to be able to educate themselves, like for them to be educated themselves, like to learn how to, to find the right information they need, because, we've got enough information available, even for free. So just to give them, the right tools, how to use the internet, how to use the knowledge, how to ask right questions, and how to solve the problems. Because the information is not a problem anymore. It's just the way how you work with it. So that's the way I see it.
I completely agree. And I think that there also needs to be a bit of a community feeling and vibe that must be given to the kids, so they feel like they're in this together somehow, because you can't have everyone operating individually. So education in the future has a lot to do with like the structure of the future, and the environment like a kid is raised in. And if you want to like raise a kid in a sane manner, kind of, I would say, you have to raise them in a collective, non-competitive fashion, where they can then afford to be curious about the world and not want to stab their brother in the back because of scarcity and so on. So you have to create kind of like a non-scarce environment, and then automatically it will be like a snowball effect in a way.
How I see it is I like that experiment that they did in India, that they put in TROM documentary, where they put some computers embedded into some brick walls, and they let those computers there. They were in English, and they just let them there. And kids came and they learned programming, they learned English all by themselves. And I love that kind of approach, because it shows that you don't even have to have something that is well structured. We have so much knowledge already. We have so many tools. Just let kids choose the tools. Let kids discover for themselves, and be there to help them in case that they need some help. I think that's the best approach. And I would say to kids, look, we have 1,000 problems, like cancer, tornadoes, whatever you want to put there. Let's try to fix them. Get them so that they know that their work has a real impact in the world, not just theoretical, So I think we have to let kids be more independent and be for themselves, try to discover stuff, try to come up with ideas and solutions, and you be there to just correct them a little bit here and there and put them on the right track wherever possible. I think that's the best approach.
Yeah, good point. There's a question in the chat. Do you guys have kids yourself? How do you plan to school them?
No kids for me, and that's probably going to stay that way.
What about you, Dima? Do you plan?
Yeah, I also don't have kids, and that's the tough question. I don't know. That's the main thing I'm afraid of, this society. I really don't know. It's really, I really have this fear. If I would have a kid, what I would do with him? Like, how can I send him to school? Really, and then how can I not send him as well? So it's really tough.
Some countries force you to send the kids to school. They even have this aggressive attitude that they may take the kid away from you if you don't send him to school. Which is so crazy, because it happens today. I will not plan to have any kids, because it's the same way. I think I will have the tools to know how to raise a kid, probably, but what do you do about your kid and this society? I mean, do you put your kid in this kind of competitive society? Because I'm sure it's hard to avoid that for him, unless you have so much money.
And there's a lot of possession then as well. It's like, this is my kid, and fuck the world then. And then you have a lot of, it's again family based, and family is also a very outdated concept, which then makes you as well compete with other people and not view the human species as your family, but instead just your own little secluded unit, and then you don't care about anybody else, and then you're as well forced to go into the trade game even deeper, because you have another person who you have to now provide for, and it's a killer, and then you won't really be able to actually make a difference too much, because you have other priorities potentially. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the good point, and that's actually other way of looking at it, you know, you can raise your kid with the values you have, you know, with your values and your way of seeing the world, but you never know what kid will be, and like how can I enforce my values onto the kid, knowing that it will, you know, makes his life much more harder and difficult for him,
So
you know.
I think
And I'm
here,
not sure when he will be grown up if he will be, you know, appreciate me or he will hate me, because maybe he wants to be, you know, like a normal, wants to have a job, a car, and you know, good house or whatever.
I think that
So I cannot make this decision for him. So
the
yeah,
difficulty here, I think, is not you as a parent knowing how to raise your child, because you have so much information. If you really want to see how you can raise your child, I think it's perfectly fine. But I think the society is the problem, because you have to raise this child in this kind of society. That's the main problem. And of course, kids, it's a bit difficult to raise your kids. Even if you have a few and you separate them from the rest of the society, it will be much better to have like group of kids, like schools, but like open kind of schools. So that kids go there, they don't only depend on you, they don't have this closed environment, even if it's a good environment. You know, you need that kind of.
Completely community feel, because otherwise you would just be you and your kid as well. If you don't want to, if you reject the educational system and you want to do homeschooling and so on, there's a lot to it as well if you want to do it in an effective way. um, yeah.
So hard to escape this society. I mean, unless you had so much money. I've seen people who are very rich and they make their own schools for their own kids. They still promote
Yeah,
the same kind of values
yeah,
to those
Elon Musk
schools.
was talking about that. I saw in one of the videos, which is of course fine, but I mean it's also very sick and possessive in another way. uh,
And you're still like
yeah,
isolated.
exactly.
You're on your own island.
yeah, exactly. But what will happen with this kid will, you know, will grow up, and when there will be a moment when he will have to face this society, you know, you can protect him, make him this, you know, ideal environment in your views ideal. But what will happen next? You cannot keep him like all the life in this, you know, your cage, your jail of your ideas and values. So
I kind of had a fight with my parents sometimes when I was in school, because I was like, or in college, because I was like, they were like, hey, you don't make money, you don't. And I was like, fuck, you put me into this game. Fuck that shit. What do I have to do now? It's very difficult. Like, what do you expect from me now? I mean, I know that you didn't think about such things, but still, it's not like my fault. Like, I have to face this shitty society, so I will not want to have kids that will be the same. Be like, what the fuck, you put me in this rat race
Completely.
game.
Completely. And that's the problem as well. Like you need to, if you want to be able to raise a kid or teach a kid anything, you need to learn and understand human behavior as well. And this concept of free will is so dangerous, I find it, because so many people think that they make their own choices and decisions in life, and they think, oh, the kid is just going to pick this or pick that, or this person wants to study this for no damn reason, and don't understand like causality or determinism that well. And how can you, how can you judge a kid or understand anything about anything really if you don't investigate human behavior and question how actions are actually caused about, and all the many factors that add up to it, because otherwise you're just gonna negatively reinforce your kid or hit your kid or all kind of other things as well,
And
or put them in a obsolete educational system.
what I will say is, like in a general context, is like, to me, education happens. Education doesn't have to be forced. Education happens when you learn something. Doesn't matter how you learn it. I mean, you put a kid through a series of problems that they have to solve, not forcefully, but say we have to fix this. Like if I had a kid, I would like buy a telescope and be like, those little stars. They are like, I think they are worlds like ours, and you have this telescope. I don't know how to put it together. You watch online tutorials or something. You figure it out. That's the way that you learn. Like when I bought even for me the telescope, now I know so many stars and so many. I know exactly sometimes where Jupiter is, where Mars is. I can see them exactly, even when Andromeda galaxy is. But I learned nothing. Just I took my telescope and I just explored the night sky, and that's how you learn. And you
Nice,
remember
yeah.
that. You really remember that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you learn by doing, and you just give them the tools, and then they can explore themselves. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have like we have some news because we do this with Trom news, and some are very related to our topic, so we can jump in to read some news on them. Because we even have a documentary that we have to want to recommend. Is this Forbidden Education? What is this all about, Dima?
Yeah, it's Forbidden Education. It's an interesting documentary. It's quite long. It's like 2 hours or something, but it's explore very like deeply all educational system we have today. Mainly, it looks at the schooling, and there's like bunch of interviews of the teachers of different kinds, and they're also shown a lot of alternative schools. And basically, it's very informative if you want to understand, all the problems and also some like the solution, or if you're interested to see what are other alternative schools are present.
You have the link on in the description of the video. It's from Video Need. Okay, and let's bring up some news. Like, let me start with the negative news. Then I have only positive news this time. So I found this news on Trom curated news. Like, it's like tromsite.com/news. We curate news automatically from many sources, hundreds of sources. And I've seen this news that says like air pollution in Kabul kills more people than war, which is very interesting because people I don't think they think about air like such a big problem. But when you put it in perspective and you're like, okay, air kills more people than war in Afghanistan. And I think if you say to any people, like any human, like, do you heard of Afghanistan? Say me 3 words about Afghanistan. I think they will say war in one of those wars, because Afghanistan is almost like always in war. It's someone is attacking Afghanistan or whatever. So even if in Afghanistan, if air pollution kills more people than war, I think it's so alarming when you put it like that. It's just, to me, it's like hard to basically understand. So that's caught my attention really about this subject.
Yeah, that is, I mean, crazy to put in perspective. I don't know how many people die from air pollution, and how do they measure that?
Yeah, I think there are all kinds of relatable good studies from what I can tell.
Yeah, but I mean, in places like they're selling air in places like I don't know, Hong Kong or something. I saw there's this Canadian air bottle that they're selling, and there was this dude talking about it, how he, after the gym, he inhales this air bottle, and then he feels like better because outside he has to wear the mask and stuff like that. Pretty intense.
There used to be a joke with air. There used to be a joke, but now it's like reality.
Yeah. But I mean, some time ago there was jokes about selling water as well. It's all get used to it, so it's normal. The same will be with the air, for sure, for some areas, like where the air is highly polluted.
Yeah, they make a business out of everything.
Of course.
Okay, but let's forget about this negative news. Let's go for like more towards educational and I've seen this. It's a company here, but I think it's a non-for-profit. For what I can tell, it's an organization that provides free 3D printed prosthetics to people around the world, which I think is such an interesting thing to do, to provide prosthetics, because we have this technology, 3D printing, and I've heard a lot of great kind of breakthroughs or news about this, but seeing it in practice, it's a different kind of thing. Like, if someone says we can make prosthetics for poor people, okay, but I like to see it in practice, someone actually doing this, which is very interesting. I really like this one. Okay, I have one news. It's about this piece of rock. It's an artistic drawing here, but it's a very interesting rock because it visited our solar system, and it's a bit of a weird rock. Because of the trajectory, because of the shape. I've read a few articles about it, and it's quite mysterious. If people want to project like, UFOs and stuff like that, I mean, that's the perfect example if you want to project conspiracy theories into this. But imagine from an educational perspective, show this to kids and say, look, we have this mysterious body, rock, approaching our solar system. We don't know what it is. We want to explore it, and let's make kids interested. You know, it's a way to make kids like, hey, interested in astronomy, interested in physics, interested even in light, how the light reflects from such an object. And it's a very interesting way to, I think, use mysteries, real mysteries, to make kids interested in education. Did you know about this one?
No, I didn't know about this rock, but definitely a great way to excite kids or any human.
Yeah, for me it's like, wow, I wanted to read about this. Like, what is this? It's interesting. Okay, another 3D printing news. It's about another kind of printer that they say it's 100 times faster than normal. So I like to see these kinds of advancements. They use a different kind of 3D printing. It's from a liquid, as far as I understand. It grows basically from a liquid, which is very interesting. Okay, all done. You see many news from 3D printed, like this one is, they print this kind of, let's say, spinal cords, and they put them in rats, and these spinal cords, because they are printed in a specific way, they make cells grow around them and grow like nerve cells and maybe tissue, just because of the structure. It's almost like you have a pool made of cells, and you make some stairs for them or whatever specific, and they grow exactly like you want. They grow like nerves here, tissue here, and stuff like that, which is so fascinating because it's just the structure basically of this 3D printing stuff. So it's interesting. I have one more. This is very related to our subject. So these are the 18 projects from citizen scientists. And citizen scientists is like when people of all ages get together and do science, and I love this kind of thing, even if it's not very popular at all. So there are so many projects. It's called SciStarter.com. It's like a Kickstarter. Instead of helping projects financially, you help them by doing something like count whatever insects, find something, take photos, analyze something that they give to you. And I think it's very, very interesting. Like, this is proper education, like how education should be done in a more saner society. Citizen scientists, yeah. Do you know about citizen scientists? This idea?
Yeah, I've heard of it and looked into it a bit here and there, but don't know too much about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's no organization basically. It's nothing that organized. It's like you say, hey, we have is this danger of asteroids hitting Earth, but we don't have so many telescopes and eye in the sky to track them all. Can you help us? You know, we are going to take photos of the sky, and you have to track. If you find something that moves in a strange way, report it to us. You know, anyone can do this. So it's very fascinating. We put it in the Rethinking Education video and book. We talked about that. Yeah, so this, you see, you find very interesting news on TROM-Curated News. And you can even get involved with some such things. They will not change the world, but at least, you know, maybe you do some interesting stuff that you enjoy and help others. Yep, interesting stuff.
There's a question, Theo, do you have any plans to use TROM-Jaro as educational tool?
Of course, that's the idea here. TROM-Jaro, for those who don't know, it's a Linux-based operating system. It's based on Manjaro, for those who know, but I put a flavor to it, a Tron flavor to it. Basically, I made an operating system that comes pre-installed with all kinds of useful and free tools for people to edit videos, for people to listen to podcasts. For example, we have a podcast app there, and I put there, from the get-go, I put some very, very interesting science podcasts. So people only have to open it, and they have a list of podcasts that are science-based podcasts. So we'll add more such stuff. Yeah, I cannot wait to officially release it. We install it on several laptops, even on MacBook. We uninstalled the freaking Mac and we installed TROM-Jaro. Works perfectly.
It's possible to uninstall Mac? So
yeah.
Wow.
We did that on Aaron's computer because he was like, I don't know if I should reinstall everything, or let's go, let's do it, let's be brave. And works perfectly fine, perfectly fine. Yeah, and you can use the computer for like I said before, like in a way like a weapon, but for good, to create videos, to create all kinds of tools. So I think that's very important for those who want this TROM-Jaro. I think it's a fantastic tool, and Linux in general, it's a great tool, at least for you, you know, to create stuff, to not have to spend money on video editors or photo editors or stuff like that. Let's see. Citizenscience.org. I think this citizen scientist thing is a bit rare as far as I know. I could barely find some sources to see about volunteers, and I don't think, because it's not something that's so cool in our world, and so people may think that they are so boring, such stuff, but I find them so interesting because they prove that human behavior is so flexible. So instead for people to be excited about movies, there are many people who are excited about counting bugs for NASA, because NASA says or whatever. They say that we need your help. And I love this thing because they say we need your help. It makes you important, feel like you're important. Hey, can you help us? So that's why I feel like it's important.
And that's the great thing about TROM, I think, because it's easy to get involved and it's like empowering people as well to take action. Yeah, instead of just being a bit on the outskirts and not really feeling like you're a part of something.
Exactly. Oh, Aaron, so Aaron left a comment here. So you also installed TROM-Jaro on your parents' computer? Okay, because I burned some USB flash drives for him so that he goes and infects other people with TROM-Jaro. So that's great, Aaron. That's perfect. Well, it's just a little thing here and there. I know I will have zero impact basically, but like I said to Dima so many times, so what should I do? Should I just not do such stuff? That's why everyone who want to get involved with TROM, just write to us, and just you can translate stuff, you can make videos if you want, you can contribute to the project, write books. If you think it's a very important subject and you want to tell the world about it, I mean the world that we reach, just write about it and send us the book, and it's that easy, like Dima does. I think it's important. Okay, so if you don't have anything else to say, we can close. I think it was an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else from my side. Thanks for letting me on. It was a great chat.
Thanks for joining.
I hope you will join.
Definitely.
More TROM-Cast, because it's very interesting. Okay, so we can stop the stream, and thank you to the few people who watch this stream. Thank you very much for watching it, and thank you for donating to TROM or helping TROM. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. You are fantastic people. Okay, I'm going to stop the stream. Bye bye.
See you.